Waiting for it to start. Come on. Boy, oh boy. This thing is hurting. Go.
This is Herb Thompson. You're watching the Break It Down show.
Yeah, this is great. I'm having limited comms right now. I'm going to work on my stuff, so I think I'll just get these guys started. Hopefully they can hear me. Herb, tell us what's new in your life, and then we'll come over to Nicholas in a minute.
Yeah, well, what's new? So I'd probably start with, working at a major tech company that's absolutely awesome, ServiceNow. We do digital workflows and getting to lead our manage our veteran programs and work that. Also continue to help veterans out there on LinkedIn. And then, of course, personally, Corey's always there by my side as my fiance. So everything's great on this end, Pete.
Should I go now?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Yeah,
sorry. So thanks for having me on, Pete. Awesome to be with you, Herb. I'm Nicholas Herb. I'm a U.S. Marine service-connected veteran. Been in the software space for a long time. Like Herb, I just really care about veteran transition. I was a mentor at Bunker Labs for about 3 years, built 3 veteran-owned software companies, went through PenFed accelerator program, met a lot of great people. Now I work for IQ4 running sales, and we are completely focused right now on veteran dependence, really DE&I focus, people in underrepresented communities, but really focused on veterans. So I'm really excited to talk to you guys today, and just glad to be here.
All right. Can you guys hear me? Am I good?
Yeah, I got you.
Yes.
Yes. I have done something. Yeah, this is great. So I love that we're talking transition, and I guess I'll prime the pump a little bit here and talk about when veterans transition. It's oftentimes, well, look, it's always a different thing. Herb has world-class experience, world-class training, has degrees. You have a degree from Cornell, is that right, Herb?
Yeah, they felt sorry for me, so it's over there. I carry it around.
Yeah. Well, I guess my point is look, I'm an E5 with a master's degree when I graduate out of high school, out of the Army, right? When I'm done, and in transition, it's just really tough to deal with. In my case, counterintelligence agent, tactical field experience, self-starter, highly motivated. I show up and they're like, "We don't know what to do with you," right? And the veteran's like, "I don't know what to do with me either. I thought I would be helpful. I thought I'd be useful." In my case, hyper competitive, hyper motivated, wanting to help. And it just crushes my soul when no one even bothers to show up, right? And so we have all these problems, and people are like, "How about you get a certificate to be a forklift driver?"
Yeah, funny you said that. My first transition brief for the Army, all I remember was a room full of people, and the guy's like, "If you ever drove a forklift, make sure it's on your DD 214 because that'll get you hired." And I looked around the room and I was like, I don't know who else wants to drive a forklift, and nothing against it. I've come from a blue collar family, but that is not what I want in life. And that is, if in my case, take away 20 years of the Army, my only skill is forklift driving, we got some issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really crazy. So I'm a lot older than you guys. I got out of Bethesda Naval Hospital when I got hurt overseas in training in the late 80s, early 90s. And I didn't even want to have disability on anything. Went right back to college, went to Wall Street, and been in technology. The only college dropout in my family. My little brother went to Princeton. Everybody's graduated from school. I started on Wall Street, just got into sales, got really lucky because I played sports. I was a U.S. Marine. I've used that brotherhood for a long time because we are a small brotherhood and we really help each other out. But today it's so hard because all these vets come out, and my company IQ4, we've created this digital wallet. Really, it's like the next generation resume, right? So we ingest that cross-military transcript, and in a matter of seconds, we tell you, what are your current skills? Like, I think the resume is completely overrated. I think college, it's extremely important, but there's so many people today, especially veterans, who don't even know what skills they have. Like when I was in the Corps and I'm an 0311, there was no technology. I don't care what position you have in the military today, you know technology, and you're also young, so you've been using everything. There's drones, but a lot of these young people just don't know. And the average age of a student today is 32 years old, and they're coming out of community colleges. So it's about credentials, right? You can go to Google, you can go to IQ4 and work in a whole bunch of initiatives we have, but it's getting that credential. And the reason we work with cybersecurity and risk is 80% of it is human behavior. It has nothing to do with IT. I mean, all three of us have been in IT for a long time. It's, running a project, running risk is all about human behavior and risk mitigation, right? It's deterring people from doing dumb stuff. You know what I mean? It's really simply what it is, and having a process behind that. But it just kills me because all these companies, they all talk about, we're going to hire 10,000 vets, we're going to do this, and especially DE&I, and there is no infrastructure. I'm a big sports guy. I play college football, baseball. Like, to me, there's no farm system. There's no consistent way to identify, develop, and retain that talent externally or internally. And it just, it's one of the reasons I joined this company is because I really, I've been in software a long time and selling a long time. I'm not joking. I like vets and rescue dogs. I'm 57. I'm kind of like done with most things. I just really want to make sure my legacy is really doing something that's more important than me.
I want to add an element to what you're talking about now, because you can get the coaching, you can find and look, I've had a lot of vet organizations try to find me work, and they're just not geared to do it. They're looking for a certain kind of client. I live in Orange County, California. And so when I have a master's degree, I've worked at all kinds of levels. I've done a lot of things that are really important. I'm probably, this is no joke, I'm probably the most seasoned field counterintelligence spy for tactical work that the Army's produced in the last 30 years, right? And so I've done a lot of things. But when I put my resume in, it's not going to get heard because I don't belong to the group of people that their resume gets picked up. Like you talked about, Nick, you talked about the companies like, we're going to, hire 10,000 veterans. Okay, well, if someone has veteran experience, when they put it into your computer and they say, hey, here I am, I'd like the job. And if no one responds to that person, you're not acting like you want to hire 10,000 veterans. And so what do we do about like opening the door? I at one point I was meeting with the source and a firefight broke out in the middle of my firefight. And when I look back on this now, I'm like, this is crazy. There's people shooting and I'm not going to hit by any bullets, but there are bullets hitting the building like that I'm leaning up against. And we kept going because I had a job to do. That job was to talk to this person, and there's a limited amount of time to talk to them. And so we had a meeting during a gunfight. If I'm a CEO, I want a guy who can figure out how to do that. But we don't have a voice a lot of times simply because the company is too distant from that veteran.
So you look at Herb, right? The guy I'm talking Fortune 500 companies. They'll put somebody in the ERG role that is not as talented as Herb, has no resources, is underfunded, and they'll say, go out and do this. But how do you do that, right? And then look at the old HR process we have today. Every resume has to have keywords in it. Most vets don't even know how to write a resume, let alone get in the right position. And that's why, and I'm going to stop promoting my company. I'm going to say it one more time. We started this 3 years ago with the American Workforce Policy Board, and it's called an LER. It's a Learning Employment Record. It's a digital wallet that's, when I said next generation, it has all your work product in there. It has all your KSAs, but it has clear pathways to jobs and training. So we have a relationship to DOL, but it's literally about like separating, and I don't want to swear on the show, but like it's just bullshit. Like, the old system is not working, right? Somebody as highly as skilled as you are, unless you know somebody, but when you're inside a big bureaucratic system with a huge HR, and they have these computer system applications that run all the resumes through, it's not going to happen. It's very inefficient, right? So we've got to find a better way of identifying really bright. And I'm going to call people out right now. Kyle Fox, who's a CTO at SOSI, 18-year Air Force veteran, brilliant guy. I mean, I love him just because he told me I like to hire Marines that have never done cybersecurity because they're mission focused, they're motivated. That's what you get with a veteran, right? You get highly motivated, want to prove. And if you can work with them that know, like, and trust, it just stays. Like the churn in most companies is 32%. If you hire a vet, put them through an onboarding and pre-apprenticeship program, they're not leaving. Now, you're not keeping anybody today. You know what I mean? Like, because there's, say, 6 years ago, there were 200,000 open roles for cyber, maybe 300. Now it's 3.2 million. And it's not a skills gap. We're just not training and upskilling this really highly motivated, awesome set of people that is veterans and their dependents. Because most, like 43% of vets are women, but even their husbands or wives, they've been traveling around with them. They're typically really trained people. Let's give them an opportunity to fill all those roles, right? Like all these people put their lives on the line. It just crushes my soul. I'm not kidding you, where we're really not putting a real true effort, because it's a big branding opportunity for everybody. I mean that. It's just really great to say we're going to do all this stuff, but unless you're physically doing it on the ground, you know what I mean? Like, listen, we're all ground pounders, right? It's real nice when the executives up top talk, but if we're not on the ground making stuff happen, it's not happening.
Yeah, I would even take it a little bit different way too, of culture of a company, right? And it comes down to hiring. No one hires someone who's the risky choice. They hire the safe bet, because no one gets fired for hiring the safe bet, right?
Yeah.
Hey, this looks like everything else we've looked at. Let's hire that. It's safe. And then you get what you get. Where veterans in most cases do look, especially straight out of the military, look way different, and it's risky. And the other thing is, companies looking at like, what's the value proposition of hiring her 30 days from now, tomorrow, versus what's it look like in 5-6 months when we've got someone in here who is, all veterans aren't the same, but most grit, resiliency, adaptability, teamwork, the ability to be coachable, right, and to work towards a common goal and a diverse team. That's stuff people preach. They would love to have that. And you go, here's a veteran's resume. Like, oh, it looks different. To me, it's that risk, but that culture, if you can get it going, of let's be a little more open.
That's why I feel like we've got to like find other vets in companies that are willing to do that. And I don't think it is taking a risk. You know, I'm old, right? I remember selling in the 90s where if you bought IBM, you weren't going to lose your job. If you bought Microsoft, right? I had money in Silicon Valley. We closed our seed funding on a company in the middle of COVID. We got $250K, and we put it in that bank. Like, if that happened now, I don't know what the hell we would do, right? So things are so different today than if they were even 10 years ago. And I think companies need to take risks if they want to be competitive. And I think that, like when I was at Bunker Labs as a mentor, right? I one time had 10 or 11 female, either spouses or vets that were CEOs. And I'm not kidding you. Just a breath of fresh air out of ideas. They think about things differently. Like, I just feel like companies are better off when you've got a really diverse group of bright people that had different thoughts and ideas of how they approach a situation. Because, Herb, I think all three of us are all about, there's an issue. What's the solution to that as quickly as possible? Like executing anything is 80% planning, 20% execution, right? And it just, to me, I feel like the world's a better place when you got more diversity. That's all.
I know we're illustrating the problem here right now and kind of, talking about it. And I don't want to completely focus on this part, because I think companies get it. They know that they're not good enough at it. And by the way, I'm going to call someone out in the other direction. When I reach out to the veteran connectors at Facebook and at LinkedIn, I used to work and do odd jobs in San Francisco. So I'd walk by the LinkedIn building all the time. And if I ever had the chance to go in there, I would say hi to somebody and hang a picture or put a TV on the wall. But if I brought a resume in and I put it on that veteran's, that dude wouldn't have any time for me. That's the other thing, is like those among us who get into corporations, you've got to be better than the company that you're working with. You've got to lead the way. And if you get an outreach from a veteran, especially if they're local, hey, come in. Let's go get lunch and let's activate. That's what you need. No, look, I'm not trying to say anybody's not doing their work. I'm not trying to say people don't have their plates full. But if I reach out to the person at LinkedIn who supposedly has veteran connector guy on his thing, and I can't get a meeting with that person as a CEO of LinkedIn, I'd be pissed. I'd be like, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah, I think it's difficult, right? Because due to my LinkedIn presence, I get a lot of reaching out, right?
Yeah.
And when I say a lot, hundreds a week going, hey, you got any advice? You got any insights? So it can be overwhelming to like, hey, I also have a job too that I have to do, and I want to help people, but I also don't think most people are in that case, right? And I think you see that in general with people. Again, back to talk about people, Pete. Like some people follow through and some don't, right? Or some people will go that extra mile. And I've had non-veterans go the extra mile for me. It doesn't have to be a veteran. Right. I've had veterans barely lift a finger for me, but it's all about people and a culture of a place that go, yeah, we want to get people in here that are diverse, like Nick said, and get a diverse group with and also a diversity of experience and background from different places, not just in traditional diversity sense.
Hey, you know what? I have to ask a question, Herb. So you were a Buffalo Bills fan growing up as a kid?
I wasn't, but we'll go with it.
I'm just asking because you moved.
Everyone else was in my town, except for like a few of us.
Oh, okay. Because now you're in DC, so I didn't know. You know, because I'm a Giant fan and a Yankee fan and a Knicks fan and a Ranger fan, so I didn't know. Just switching conversation for one second.
What if the Isles get into the Stanley Cup? Are you going to root against them?
No, because they're a New York team, obviously. Like they're Mets fans hate Yankee fans. I don't hate the Mets. But if the Isles get in, I'll root for the Isles.
And then who do you root for if the Mets and Red Sox are in the World Series?
Absolutely the Mets.
Okay. Attaboy. I like that. Yeah.
There's nothing that I agree with and somebody from Philly agrees with, except that we hate Boston. Like that's the only time we agree on anything. And the only time I agree with somebody from Philadelphia is we completely dislike the Dallas Cowboys. Absolutely. Absolutely. But half my friends live in Boston. And I want to give a shout out to Mike Nolan, who runs the military hiring for Salesforce. He's a Boston guy. But you know what? Here's the other issue too, Herb. Like everybody has been laying people off because everybody over the last 3 years made all these incredible commitments. And, that's another issue. So I don't know how we work around that. But I'm working with some really great companies that are very committed to veteran hiring. So it's been good.
Herb, when you got out, did you think you'd be where you are now, doing what you're doing now?
It's funny you say that. 4 years ago this week, I retired from the Army after, 20 years. Like 2 days will be my retirement anniversary, I guess. I didn't know the company I work ServiceNow. I didn't know it existed. So I'm going to go with no. I didn't know, right? Like I think shortly after this, I found out I was going to get into Cornell for the program. And I knew kind of where I was going. Quite frankly, I was on a different career path. Thinking like everyone, trying to figure it out and go, hey, this is where I'm going. I'm going to go a management consulting career path. About day 3, I realized this is not what I thought it was. It's not making the impact that I want to. So I'm going to adjust, and that's where I'm at. So definitely not where I thought, but I said an azimuth, right? It was kind of like, no, this isn't my goal, hard concrete. It was like, there's certain hard concrete goals. And then there's certain like, I'm going to go in this way, and it's got to be something I can build upon and I can be successful at. And for me, I always said 2 years ago, I was looking for a new job. I quit my job doing management consultants. Like, what am I going to do next? Right. 2 years removed from retiring, just a little over 2 years. And I was like, I know what it looks like when I see it, kind of that old definition of porn. I think the Supreme Court said,
Yeah.
hey, I know when I see it, and I forget the justice's name, but that's what I was looking for. I was like, I will know it when I find it. And there were certain things. And when people would ask me, what do you want to do or where? And I'd be like, I want to go to make an impact at a place, making an impact. And they're like, what the heck does that mean? I was like, I'll know it when I find it. And it just took a little searching and I found it.
When you find it makes total sense to me. And the willingness to look, guys like us, we can withstand a lot of uncertainty. We don't have to know what's next. We just have to know that we're doing the right thing. And I have a nose for what to do if you put me in Iraq or Afghanistan. I know what, you don't have to tell me what to do. I know.
Yep.
And we have that nose, I think, translates to the civilian world. But you have all these barriers in your way. So what barriers were between you and the place that you are at now?
I would say the first barrier was myself. I had to believe. And I think too often we don't believe, or we see, you get discouraged, and that's anybody applying. I don't care, not veteran. You get more no's than you get yeses by a lot. So I was just talking to someone today. I'm like, hey, I'm the only person in the history of the Army to be a drill sergeant of the year and during the Green Beret. And I got an Ivy League MBA. You know how many people have knocked on my door and said, Herb, we want to hire you? I'm still at zero. Like, it's just not happening, right? So it's, how do I figure out what I want to do? But then I got to go after it. And the same zeal that I had to go earn my beret or to go whatever for a mission, this is just a new mission. I need to have that same appetite, that same hunger, and I can be successful. So once I realized that, then it was like, okay, same thing with deploying, doing whatever. It's like, okay, I know what I'm doing now. I trust my instincts.
I want to stay with you here on this because you mentioned an important thing. You were drill sergeant of the year, and we know what it means to be a drill sergeant. There's things like Ranger School where you're like, oh boy, the civilian connotation to that, like what they think that means, they don't get it. And I bet you were a fantastic drill sergeant. I mean, I almost went down that path myself when I thought I'm just too damn. And I was going to be an AIT drill if I did anything, but I'm just too damn nice, right? And I thought, nah, I don't want to do the hours because I don't think I could have the right kind of impact and lead young troops like that. But you did, and you did it well enough to whoop the rest of your peers' butts in the Drill Sergeant of the Year competition. Talk about what the skills are that allows you to get there, to be, because I don't think people get it. They picture early Army is what they only picture.
Yeah, knowing people and knowing processes and being able to train. I would say those three things. If you know people, you go be a drill sergeant. You're molding American sons and daughters. Processes. It's a process. The Army or any military service, it's one big conveyor belt, like plug and play, right? And mass produce soldiers, 0311s, etc. And then, hey, you got to know how to train people. You got to know how to communicate. All those things I think most people want employees, right? It's that. The opposite side is in being aware. You talked about it being a human guy and being aware, being able to read situations and etc. I realized very early on, I'm a drill sergeant and I'm a Green Beret. Whatever anyone saw in a movie or TV, because that's probably their connection, I'm probably a big a-hole, right? That's what they're going to think. Now, Pete knows me, like, I'm as kind of comical as usually as could be, right? Very laid back, probably more surfer, mountain man type attitude. But people would be like, if all they saw was drill sergeant and they think Arlie Ermy from Full Metal Jacket, something like that from the movies, or a Green Beret, Rambo, whatever. I had to change that narrative, right? And explain that. So just being able to read the situation of what I was getting into and going, I need to market myself differently because of that. Because no one understands, in my community, Pete, and I'll stop here, is most people know what a Navy SEAL is. They're like, oh, I know what that is. They've done a great job marketing themselves, whatever. No one has a clue what the heck a Green Beret is, almost to a person, unless they're like, I saw Rambo. Like, I don't look like that with my shirt off, and that's probably not why you're going to hire me anyways. Oh, we lost it, Pete.
Pete, we lost your audio.
All right, am I back? Okay. I'm gonna come right back to Nick in a second here, but I want to stay with this thing. So when I got in the Army, I was 24. I already had a college degree, and you talk about processes and everything else, and noticing things. I see the drill sergeants. They're marching us to and fro, and all of a sudden they take their hat off, and they look in their hat, clearly at a schedule, and I'm like, oh. This is the magic. These guys have a schedule to run, and they've got to march our asses all over the place. And if someone's late, we get smoked. If no one asks questions, there's extra time. It's push-ups. And I started guiding our entire platoon towards like, take your time. They'll rush us when we need to, but when there's extra time, we end up having to pay the price. And rightfully so, right? We got to get into shape and everything. But when I realized that they had a schedule to run and they weren't in the business of failing people, that everybody was going to pass, if at all possible, it completely changed how I saw basic training. But I don't know a civilian anywhere that realizes how like that much of that institutional process that you're beholden to as a drill sergeant. You don't just get to yell at people all day. That's not how it works.
Yeah, people always, especially when I was doing drill sergeant of the year stuff, they like probably one of the weirdest things. People be like, "Hey, yell for us," and I'm like, "What do you want me to yell? Like that's weird." No, when you're talking to 200 people, you got to raise your voice. Like, hey, but yeah, if like you're yelling all the time, eventually people tune you out. So it's same way with like military. Like you're only a leader because of your rank and because of the hierarchy of the military. I'm like, no, it's people don't run into machine gun fire because of someone's rank. Like it doesn't work that way. You got to inspire others. It only goes so long. So yeah, it definitely. I don't know Nick's experience.
A story all the time about what it means to earn respect. So, and you guys know what a gunny sergeant is in the Marine Corps. I've seen gunny sergeants with I'm in the late 80s. So these are gunnies from Vietnam with a row of ribbons like this. And you'd see a major that's been in 7 years. That's like, hey, gunny, what do you need, buddy? I'm sorry, sir. What do you need? Like that's respect. And you're right. I think at the end of the day, I feel like people watch a ton of movies and we've got all these people home. Like in World War II, 10% of the population had served. Now we're less than 1%. I'm not kidding you. I believe in a national draft. And I don't care if it's combat. You could do, it doesn't have, I hope you're not in combat anymore. I hope it's like community service, whatever you want to do, but be a part of society and be like we're Republicans, we're a public society, right? Not Republican, I'm talking politics. Like be a patriot, be a part of the community to make everything better, right? Just do 2 years. Because I think that 2 years makes you endeavor to be more than you want to be. And it makes you, like most young people today, what you get out of being in the military is you understand what's the word? Like you have perspective, right?
Yeah.
There's a different perspective on life. Like I would tell my stepkids all the time, I'm like, it's easy for me to say this stuff to you because I went through all kinds of crazy stuff. But if you don't do that, when you're 50 and something really bad happens, you're not going to know what to do, right? You've got to have those capstones in your life, those milestones that make you know what you're capable of doing and what you can push yourself through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're on mute again. Sorry, Pete.
The headphones keep turning off on me. I have a great story about this very thing. So there's a Marine that I know. He was in the modern wars and he lost all of his left leg and his left eye. And so he goes to a place called First Sergeant's Hill in San Diego at Pendleton. And all his buddies are going up this super steep hill called First Sergeant's Hill, right? First Sergeant's Hill, just for anybody watching, it's not a gentle place to go walking up. Like it's meant to be hard. It's meant to challenge you. And he sees his friends going up. And this is like to remember Marines that aren't with us anymore. And so he takes out up this hill. And eventually he gets to the point where it's quickly too steep for him to do his whole body leg swing to get his prosthetic leg to swing in front of him. So he takes the damn thing off and throws it in the ground and starts hopping up the hill. When he runs out of hops, he then bends over at the waist and is tripoding. So you got to imagine back foot front, and he's essentially upright crawling up this hill. And he's covered in dirt, as you might imagine. All his buddies are around him cheering him because they've been up and come back down to get him. And he's like, I was, dizzy. I was going to pass out, but I wasn't going to stop. And then you got to imagine this guy looks up. You know what his left eye is now? Instead of an eye, because his eye's gone, it's a fucking globe and anchor.
That's awesome.
You can't even
awesome.
You can't hope to hire a guy like that because he won't take your stupid job, right? But you should be desperate to hire a guy like that because that guy is something magic. He came from Cudahy, like a place filled with gangs, and he should be dead, but he's not. He gets blown up. He should quit, but he didn't. And he just is a bad motherfucker who climbs up mountains in spite of everything thrown at him. And it just makes me emotional talking about how wonderful, what a fantastic dude. And every time you see a picture of him, he's like on his recumbent bike and he's hand pumping, and you're just like, what a goddamn warrior that guy is. And again, like, you'd be blessed to have someone say, yeah, I'll take a shot at your company.
Yeah. Hey, I'll if you don't mind, I actually don't think it's a company problem. Across companies, it's an American society cultural problem. When's
Okay.
the last time you watched a movie, a TV show? Just close your eyes and picture what a veteran is.
Yeah.
In 99 out of 100 times, one off to war, comes back broken, usually turns out to be the hero. But there's that broken part in there, and you deal with that. That is across TV. That's what most people see about veterans, right? So to me, that feeds into that whole narrative of why aren't they getting hired is most people don't interact with veterans like this. So maybe they have a family member. They don't really know they served. They don't know what they did, but it's from society's social media, but really Hollywood and TV and stuff. Took it way out in left field. I know.
No. I literally was just going to tell you guys, like, so when I went through PenFed's accelerator program, I went through with 3 Green Berets, and I was just looking them up before. Troy Goldhammer, he's more my age. They graduated from West Point. He and his buddy started a company. He's an amazing guy, Green Beret. I know he was in like 8 or 10 years. But like the hero of my heroes. So when you go through this accelerator program, we had like some of the superstars, women, I mean, PhD, women of color, like PhDs, MBAs, just brilliant. But all the guys, we all met Brad Halling, and Brad Halling's Green Beret, Delta Force, like all of his pictures, he and his wife Jessica, and she's even scarier than him because she was a JAG lawyer who interrogated everybody. But he spins around every time he would bring his whiskey or his scotch. So sorry, he's going to kill me. But he flips over his leg, right? Like that guy still looks like the most interesting man in the world, right? Like screw the Secchi's guy. It should be Brad Halling. You know what I mean? So I was just like in awe of him. And I remember walking up to him one night and with him and his wife, I go, listen, I just want you to know, like I got a man crush on you because you're just such a great guy. And, he and his wife turned to me and goes, Nick, you're just literally like this guy that constantly makes sure everybody's from a morale. Like, I'm just like not a gung-ho guy, but I just like being on a team that never quits. Like I've never quit in my life. I never will quit. I don't care. Like I played rugby and semi-pro football until I was 40. And I would go to these games with my kids. I'm strapped. Everything's replaced on my body, my hips, knees, 4 surgeries in each knee. And I'd be wrapping my legs up. And the other team is probably in their early 20s. And they're like, who's the old guy with kids? We're going to kick that guy's ass. And at the end of the game, these guys would walk up to me and be like, hey, old man, great job. You know what I mean? Like, I just love that stuff. You know what I mean? That's why. And I just love the vets I find and men and women that just really care about each other. And that's why you got to build your own bubble. You know what I mean? Whatever that bubble is. And you try to bring people in. And to your point, Herb, like everybody wants to call up. But you want people who are creating the reason for you to want to talk to them. You know what I mean? Because they're going out to find solutions, right? And I just like that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And go ahead, Pete.
No, I'm letting you go. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think it's just interesting, right? It's a big problem, I think, because it's all about top talent too, right? Where do you find top talent? That, like you said, dude's got one eye crawling up a hill, like dudes will run through the wall for you, and gals. I just said dudes. Where do you find people like that? I think most people want that, right? Like, any hiring manager be like, I want someone like that. How do you bridge that gap? And I think I used 4 years ago, I thought I was 100% on the service member. I did. I thought I was, matter of fact, when Corey and I met, my fiance, we would have major disagreements because I was like, no, it's not on a company to figure that out. It's on the veteran. I now think the companies can do more if they want the top talent, right? So there is something there's still a lot on the veteran. They still have to go do it and earn it, but there is a lot to be said about companies that maximize that talent. They're going to set themselves apart because there's an interesting segment of people who are amazing employees in general. And when we talk in general about veterans, people who maximize that, they're going to set themselves apart, and that's going to be good years down the road for their company.
I just think it's second chances. Like there's reskilling and upskilling. Like you've got this great talent pool. People just want to feel like you care. I mean that. Like you say it's us, but say it's them. It's got to be both. But you got to care. You know what? It's not act like you care. Care, and how you care is fundamentally change the way you do things. And that's the only reason I'm at this company, IQ4, is because I feel like we're transforming the way companies do things. But it's a very complex thing. And it's a supply chain, supply and demand that's got so many moving parts. But I think it starts with dialogue like this. And it also becomes more inclusive with everybody else. But you have to really, you can't just say, like how many times I've been hired at a company because they see my background. They see what I've done in life and like, oh, we want this guy to come in. He's going to knock down doors for us. And then I would see that everything behind it was all shallow. There wasn't, they wanted me to come in and build this. Like, no, the culture stops top down, right? You can't like just plug one person into a bad culture and think it's going to change, right? You've got to really be committed to honoring that process, right? And I'm a guy that, Pete and I think I love about Pete. He's kind of a Renaissance man. So are you, Herb. I love reading books. I don't read self-help stuff. I read autobiographies. I look at great coaches like John Wooden. Like every one of his players would die for that guy. Like that's a coach. That's a mentor. That's somebody you want in your foxhole. You know what I mean? And I'm a people collector. I collect good people. I got all the same people I've had most of my life. And I've got good people online I've met through all these veteran stuff because they're good people.
I want to go back to something that Herb said. And first off, Herb, I this is part of what I want to get to. I dig Corey. I dig you and Corey together. I always get a blast out of watching you guys do things. And then you're social mediating about it. And I just think it's great. I've never met Corey in my life, never talked to her anything, but I'm like, that's a cool chick. That's a cool dude, if you like, right? Because we can say dude for anybody. But I like that. And that social media aspect is something that we're struggling to keep up with. I've seen that the Army has launched a whole bunch of new recruiting videos. They don't have Jose Barone climbing up a mountain with this damn globe and anchor eye, but they're trying to figure this thing out. Meanwhile, there's a lady on TikTok who's in the Army who gets 3 million spins on a TikTok video. And I put a post up about this today where we're trying to always invent something. Like how do we use this old model to recruit people? Like go get TikTok chick and make a deal with her because she's getting 3 million eyeballs on her things, and use these things. Look at Pete, 1,500 damn episodes of a podcast. If you think you want to start a podcast, why aren't you coming to a guy who's done it for 10 years, right? So we have these things where you're creating this really emotive content that moves people and inspires me to, one, reach out to you, but always follow your stuff. You got this TikTok chick. You got Pete over here doing podcasts all the time. There's a lot of talent right in front of us, just waiting to be leveraged, waiting to be discovered, waiting to be partnered with.
Hey, what's that? What's the camera company, the little cameras?
GoPro,
right? GoPro doesn't spend money on marketing. They get all their customers to give them that stuff. And I don't know why we don't do that in general more, because the Army got rid of what was the famous Army thing, whatever. It was working forever and they got rid of it. Like if it's not broke, I don't know why you fix it. I mean, why change it? Yeah. But they want to change things.
I'm suggesting you can go forward though, right? Like Mr. Beast did a great thing. Mr. Beast is this personality on YouTube. And he's like, the Super Bowl's charging how many millions of dollars for access to how many millions? He's like, I'll do it for way less money than that. And he's got a bigger audience than the Super Bowl, right? And so there are different ways of doing these things. So again, your thoughts on this, Herb. How do we look ahead as a company, as a service member, as whoever, and leverage these things to our advantage? How do we build an audience like this? The 3 million, views of a video that this young lady is getting.
Yeah, to me, it goes back to the basics of military operations. Understand your operational environment.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you did, like you said, like, hey, talk to her about LinkedIn or whatever, tons of people on TikTok that get all kinds of followers from the military. It's like leverage that. I think the hard part becomes like you lose control of the messaging, right? And you're like, oh my God, what is someone going to say? And we want a very strict message. Let's be real. The military is innovative around a few things, but for the most part, the military is pretty set in its ways, right? So it's like, this is how we do things. And we're only going to change because, hey, someone wants to get another star, or some senior enlisted guy wants to get the next, or gal wants to get the next position. Like, not that they don't really care, but like,
Right.
they care, but there's some more to it. So to me, it's really leveraging resources, right? And like, hey, this is me. Let's be real. I'm not a 4-star general. Never was going to be. But like, if you ask me, it'd be like exactly what you said, Pete. Like, I don't understand this. I'm been serving 35 years. I'm 50 some years old. I'm crusty. Let me go understand it from someone who knows it. Let me get the expert, which in this case, the TikTok, and there's a bunch of people like that out there, and leverage them, right? Like, how do you do that? And then people come, I'll tell you, one of the most common things I get asked, Pete, about my LinkedIn, and you said you feel like you know me, you know Corey, etc. People are like, how are you so authentic? How do you be that way? And I'm like, are you asking me how to be yourself?
You just hit on the most important thing, is being real and authentic. Nobody cares about scripted fakeness. Everybody wants to everybody wants to connect with somebody that they feel like they know and seems real. That's what people want. It's as simple as
the whole authenticity movement we have, right? You know, like people say you're authentic. I'm like, hey, thanks. You know, I'm comfortable with who I am. I know I make a lot of mistakes, and so the next one won't be the first, won't be the last, won't be the biggest. Won't, you know, like it's just, I make mistakes. It's been a challenge to do this show today. You know what you do? You just roll on. You keep going. But that authenticity from knowing who you are and knowing what direction you're in, and I'm not trying to be an unkind person, right? So these things are all generally good. Let's go in a generally good direction, and we should be good. I wanted to come back to something else within that social media thing. You talked about messaging and being afraid of what the. Let me just change this altogether. In the early 2000 teens, you would have like the 82nd Airborne would say, 512 PIR, one organizational day. And that's how they would tweet. And the ISIS is like, we're going to come cut everybody's heads off. Join us. And they use it in a different way. And I think this is kind of to your point, Herb, is they struggle. Like, this is the message. This is how we do things. And we're going to talk about the unit barbecue on Twitter that nobody tweets or follows other than like, yes, sir, we like the barbecue, sir. I am told, my commander tells me I like the chow just fine. Thank you very much. Meanwhile, you know, you have companies that are really doing things that are emotional, impactful. Like, I love following Wendy's Twitter account because they allow some levity. They're not taking themselves too seriously. And so maybe that's not what the Army should do, but there should be some aspect of that they bring in where they're like, hey, this lady over here, she's in service, probably shouldn't legally be doing, you know, TikTok videos and has way too much makeup on to make us happy. And now we're mad because her ponytail's too long. Maybe shut the fuck up and see what she's doing and figure out, again, how to put that kind of a messaging thing. Because I'll tell you right now, the Army doesn't have 3 million spins on any video it puts out.
No, it doesn't. It's how do you capture that, right? And it's just so interesting with like social media and branding. I mean, the Army spends millions upon millions of dollars on this. The Army example, I will tell you, in my mindset, where the military in general fails, every service, maybe except for Marines, that's a little different. Nick could address that, but like, your veterans are your number one recruiters. How many people do I talk to every day, whether in person or social media? And just us three, if everyone did that and everyone had a positive military experience, no, it's never going to be everyone. They went out and talked to different people. Our kids have 4 teenagers. They bring kids over the house. I always think of how I'm talking to someone, maybe the first time they've ever talked with a veteran, maybe first time someone now at service now, some first Green Beret. There's a responsibility there for me to tell the story. And this was the hardest thing for me to get over, Pete, is I didn't want to talk about a lot of stuff that I served with, right? And Corey, bring her back, has helped me see, look at the good it's doing for people.
Yeah.
Open up a little bit. And in my house, on the other side of this wall, it's our downstairs living room. And I never had any of my military stuff up. And Corey's like, put it up there. Just now, maybe 10, 15 teenagers have been through here, but every one of them was like this. Wide-eyed, like, oh my God, look at this stuff on the wall. That's just 15 people's minds that were influenced by that little decision to put some coins and some plaques up on the wall and stuff. So to me, we're leveraging our veterans more and getting us to guys and gals like ourselves to get out there and tell their stories about service and how it's been beneficial to them. That to me is the best recruiting tool, because someone knows you and someone trusts you and they'll believe you. How do you do that, Scale? Get a lot of people you know and trust.
Yeah. Hey, Nick, we're going to run out of time if I don't do this quick. So really quickly, tell us about IQ4. I want the B2B side and I want the B2C side.
So the B2B side it's a platform that was built about 8 years ago. Because I said, very complex supply chain when it comes to the skills gap. And I don't really think there's a skills gap. There's people out there that aren't getting the opportunity to get the haven't got the opportunity to look at things in a different way, right? Because we're looking at resumes, we're looking at college. There's a lot of people that just can't do it. There's ageism, there's a million other things. So this company was started in about, like I said, 8 years ago. And they went to high schools up in the Bronx and Harlem, Mount Vernon, New York. And they looked at high school kids and even kids in 7th and 8th grade. And we actually worked with astronauts and NASA on projects with Boeing to fix, and it was literally a flap on I forget, on the outside of the outside of a satellite. And they had kids who had never looked at projects that way, interfacing in an applied learning way with astronauts and with engineers, subject matter experts. And it was amazing the outcomes we've done. 2 years ago, we helped to kind of upskill and reskill the entire country of Costa Rica. So they had about a 62% rate of people in innovation cyber with our applied learning platform as part of our whole tech stack. We got them to 78%. So right now we've launched a CEO Alliance for military, where we're working with large companies across the United States to literally be committed to hiring veterans. So with our platform, and I said the digital wallet, we can identify all those veterans, and it's really based on the job rec and job role. So most companies, even like LinkedIn, I love the company, but they go down to a tier 2. We go down to tier 4, which is part of the NIST and NICE framework. It's really those knowledge, skills, and abilities that get a deep understanding of your proficiencies and what are your career pathways. What's that matching engine? We call that Cupid. So Cupid matches you, right? It understands your current skills and abilities, gives you clear pathways to training for specific job roles, or it gives you clear pathways to companies that are hiring based on your skills. So we can take that cross-military transcript very quickly, plus your resume and your credentials and your work product, and identify very clear job roles and training to things you never thought you could possibly do. And I'll leave it at that.
Herb, same thing for you, man. And I'm going to put your link up here in a second for everybody. By the way, there's IQ4. Make sure you go to IQ4.com and check out everything.
Don't send anybody to our website because it's completely getting redone.
Don't ever go to IQ4.com.
Just send them right to me. Send them right to me on LinkedIn, please.
I'm going to put Nick's LinkedIn thing until they get their new website. Never mind that website. You know what? Better yet, text me. I'll get you my number, and you guys, I'll put you right in contact with Nick. Okay, I'm going to fix some links here. And then Herb, same thing, B2B, B2C.
Yeah, ServiceNow, this is why I look at it is, can it be digitized? Any inefficiency you have, military folks, hey, turn in leave form. Every one of us have had to do that. It's a pain in the butt. It's something that can be digitized. Now think about that across every office space. How do you tie all these different platforms together? That is 100% B2B. That's where we reside, is really a platform of platforms for business to manage their operations and to free up their people to do the work they're supposed to. So all of us hate, I know the other two gentlemen on the call here hate bureaucracy. And so it's like, how do you get past that bureaucracy? Let's be real. A lot of that's just administrative paperwork type stuff. ServiceNow does that, and we're doing it across the DoD. I see, but even more of our work is out across corporate America, Fortune 500 companies, enterprise level, of really freeing up people so they can do their work. We say we make the world work. It's, hey, let's not do these tasks so you can actually do whatever your job is supposed to be.
All right. What question do you guys have for me? Maybe I've been hammering you guys and taking us on this journey. What do you guys want to talk about or talk to me about?
I'll let Herb go first.
Yeah, I'll say, so it's been a while since I think a couple of years probably, I don't know,
Yeah.
since what's changed for you, and maybe, and I'll keep it, that could be very general, to the bids show.
Mm-hmm.
Right here, the bids breakdown show, like how's that evolved for you, or what stayed the same maybe?
I've realized that maintaining an audience is hard, especially in my line of work. So you have people that will pay attention because they like you, but they can't be there every day. I produce a lot of content, so I enrich through networking. My show, look, a little bit of money comes out, but let's be honest, not that much, right? And it's not about advertising because I'm not Joe Rogan. I don't have 10 million people to draw on that. I can try to go down that path, but then, like a lot of things in business, if I work that hard at that, I won't actually get to do this. I'll have to, this will sacrifice. So how do you balance? This is a question I always ask myself, where the market is, where the market's going, still continuing to connect with people. Because look, I'm a spy. That's what I do, right? My job is to go out and meet people and find things out and deliver these shows to you as my field report. And so I've gotten way past the ego part of this and way past the, I hope this thing explodes and becomes something bigger. And it might. Who knows? But I can't reliably count on that because I compete in the hyper competitive space where people like Justin Bateman are like, I'm going to start, or Jason Bateman, I'm going to start a podcast with my friends. And they're all individually famous. Like you get to make movies and talk to movie stars. Now I can talk to movie stars, but I'm not going to get that kind of traction. So how do I pull the value out of what I have? And that's interactions, that's introductions, it's networking, it's someone saying, hey, Pete, can you? And I say yes. And so that's where I have focused the show, is to let go of the need for the show to expand to 10 million people and let it be the thing that it is. This remarkable, look, no matter how you cut it, even though I don't make that much money on the show, my show is in it's less than the first percentile in terms of longevity, booking, quality, reach. It's amazing. I am enormously successful, and I have to accept that because it's not going to change. I'm just going to keep doing this. And that is a wrestling match. It is like an Aikido kind of wrestling match. Because as soon as you go to grab something aggressively, you're like, that's a mistake. I have to let the show be its own powerful force. And I'm amazed that I've built something that's actually bigger than me. My show can allow me to talk to almost anybody on the planet. And I can say, like, here are the people that have been on my show. And it's, gold medalists, it's Oscar winners, it's Pulitzer Prize winners, it's Nobel Peace Prize winners. Would you like to be on a show like that? And the person says, absolutely. When are we going to talk? And bam, it happens. And I would say the other thing, and this is a more sets me apart thing, but allows me to do things along the same line with this networking and interpersonal connectivity. I can, and you guys appreciate this, and I learned this from my sergeant major in basic training: portable, mobile, deployable. That's what I am. I put my backpack on, maybe have a duffel bag that goes with me, and I'm out the door, and I can go anywhere. I can sit. I can go sit in Herb's house on the other side of the wall where all his stuff is, and Herb will be the host of me as I host him on my show. And I'm going to do that this week with David Livermore, who's like the preeminent name in culture, and I'm going to be at his house in San Diego. And how different is that? And also the ability to bring three people together in a show, whether they're two different experts or whatever it is. Those are the things that I do to create the magic that I create. There you go.
Love it.
Listen, all I want to know is offline we could talk. I just have a lot of cool, interesting people I think who would love to be on your show because I love this whole three people thing. It just creates a good dynamic. And obviously anything I can do to promote you and promote what you're doing. You two are, just let me know because I just really enjoy both of you. And I think this is an interesting medium when you have the right people on and you've got good subjects. And I think maybe we went a little too serious on the transition stuff, but it's important. But I'd love to talk to you guys offline too.
Yeah.
That's just a big old love affair. That's great. You absolutely have my attention anytime you want it, Nick.
Absolutely.
Herb, anything else that you want to say before we go? Lots of great comments today from Brad too, by the way. And earlier on, we had Kyle Fox checking in, and Dickie were checking in. So I want to acknowledge those guys. Thanks for listening to the show. Anybody, buy the shirts for crying out loud. We make some great shirts around here. Text me, email me. I'm glad to talk to you again. What do you want to say in closing, Herb?
I really believe in America, you can be anything you want. And when we're talking veterans, your service doesn't determine what you're going to do after service. You can be whatever you want. I truly believe from any walk of life, everyone's going to face biases, some more than others, but you can be anything you want. And I've been around the world and seen, just straight bad stuff, whores, evil. We got a good thing here, and like you can be what you want.
Yeah, and there's Herb's link down below over here. That way. Where you can follow him on LinkedIn. Look, if you type in Herb Thompson, you're going to see the handsome man with the big beard. That's going to be Herb. And say hi to Corey for me. All right, yeah. Anything in closing before I wrap this thing up, Nick?
No, I think I just love the fact that everything you've been through, Herb, you still believe in the American dream, and so do I, because you know what, it is what we make it. You know what I mean? And it's something we got to protect and we got to preserve, and we've got to be better for it. You know what I mean? We've been given it, so we better make it better for the next group, right?
Damn right.
Yeah. Stand by for 1 sec while I wrap this thing up.
Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here are the next episodes you should listen to. Curated